This is Mrs. Appiah with a review. This is worksheet HW EE1. Identify the greatest common factor. Factor the expression. Write the sum as a product of two factors. In the first problem, the greatest common factor of 6 and 12 is 6. Next, divide by the greatest common factor. The answer is 1x. You could also just write x. 6 times 1x is 6x, and 6 times 2 is 12. So factoring this equation, we've got 1x plus 2. Now it says write it as a product of two factors. The two factors are the first term of 6, which is right here, and the second term is the expression right here, x plus 2. You could write 1x, but you could also keep the coefficient of 1 invisible. This is called the sum. This is called the product. They are equivalent to each other. In the next example, the greatest common factor of 6 and 30 is 6. Divide by the greatest common factor. 6 goes into 6 one time. 6 goes into 30R 5R times. You can double check that by multiplying. 5R times 6 equals 30R. So this one is called the sum. Now we're going to write it as a product. The product is 6 times the quantity. So we're writing it as a product of two factors. 6 is the first product, or the first factor, and then 1 plus 5r is the second factor. This factor in this case is an expression. So the right side, this is called the product. And the answer for number 1 was 6 times the quantity x plus 2. On the right side of the page, use the distributive property to write each product as a sum. So here we are undoing what we did on the previous section. Here you are going to use the distributive property. You want 3 groups of a plus 5. So you multiply 3 times the first quantity plus 3 times the second quantity. The first quantity is a. The second quantity is 5. Then you can simplify that. That's 3 times a is 3a. 3 times 5 is 15. 3a plus 15 cannot be added together because they are unlike terms. So what we've done here, it said use the distributive property to write each product as a sum. So this is called the product, and the two factors are 3 and the quantity a plus 5. This is called the sum, and we are adding two terms together. So the answer is here, 3a plus 15. Number 10. So we have 2 times the quantity 3x minus 5. We'll use the distributive property. This is a product where the first term is 2 and the second term is the quantity 3x minus 5. We're going to write that as a sum of 2 times the first quantity plus 2 times the second quantity. And actually we are not adding in this case, we are subtracting. So I need to change this addition to subtraction. The first term is 3x, the second term is 5. Simplify that. 2 times 3x is 6x. Bring down the minus sign, and 2 times 5 is 10. So this is the sum, and you think, well, how could it be a sum if it's minus 10? Because you could always rewrite it as 6 plus negative 10. And then this one is called the product. The product is in the term or in the form of a times the quantity b plus c, and the sum is in the form of ab plus ac. Okay, let's go down to number 11. Here we want negative 6 times the quantity h plus 7. So we want to draw our arrow to each term. We want -6 of the first term plus -6 times the second term. The first term is h, the second term is 7. -6 times h is -6h. -6 times 7 is -42. You can rewrite adding the opposite or adding a negative as subtraction. So we'll go ahead and revert back to simple subtraction. So the answer is -6h minus 42. Either one of these is actually okay. This one is just in simplest form. All right, let's go down to number 13 next. For number 13, here you're going to be distributing a negative sign. So what I want you to do is I want you to slip in the invisible coefficient 1 there, because this is actually one group of -6 minus g. So I'm just going to stick a 1 there. And that's all I've changed. That just says that I want -1 group of that. Then I want to rewrite this subtraction as adding the opposite. So I'm just going to bring down the -1, the -6, but instead of subtracting g, I want to add a -g. Now I'm ready to distribute that -1. So I'm going to go ahead and write it over here so I have room to finish the problem. Draw an arrow from the -1 to both of the terms. I want -1 times the first term plus -1 times the second term. The first term is -6. The second term is -g. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. And I could write 1g, but I could also keep the 1 invisible and just say g. And so the answer is 6 plus g. Number 14. Let's skip number 14 and go down to 15. Here I have -1/5 times the quantity 25 minus 15x. Here I want to rewrite the subtraction as adding the opposite. And I have a negative sign, so I need to be careful on this problem. So I've got -1/5, and I'm going to rewrite 25 minus as plus a negative 15x. So those are equivalent. All I've done is use the rule of subtraction to change subtraction to adding the opposite. Now I'm going to draw an arrow from each of the terms to the 1/5. So now I've got -1/5 times the first term plus -1/5 times the second term. The first term is 25. The second term is -15x. Now I can simplify that. Right here, -1/5 times 25. A fifth of 25 is 5, and a negative times a positive is a negative. So the first term is -5 plus, and now I want a fifth of 15x. So I do a fifth of 15 is 3. A negative times a negative is a positive, so that's going to be a positive 3, positive 3x. So this is the sum, and this was the product. Let's turn it over to the second side. Write two different equivalent expressions. So we're going to do number 18 next, and there are a couple of different ways that I could go about solving this problem. I can factor this expression to write an equivalent expression, or I could also break down one of the terms into a sum of those terms. So we'll go ahead and do both. The first thing that I can do is divide by the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 10 and 6 is 2. So I'm going to divide both of those terms by 2. 2 times 5r is 10r, and then bring up the minus sign, and 2 times 3 is 6. Again, 6 divided by 2 is the 3, and 10r divided by 2 is the 5r. So I'm rewriting this sum as a product, So that's going to be 2 times the quantity, 5r minus 3. So that's one of my expressions that is equivalent. This one is called the sum, and this one is called the product, and they are equivalent. Then I need two different equivalent expressions. So the second way that I can do it is to take one of the terms and just break it up. Well, 10r is equal to 5r plus 5r, and then just bring along the minus 6. And that's one of the equivalent expressions. There are many. Number 19. Circle the expressions that are equivalent to 3 times the quantity, 5x plus 2. Hint, simplify all expressions first. To simplify this expression, I want to use the distributive property. And that means I want 3 times the first term plus 3 times the second term. The first term is 5x, the second term is 2. 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times 2 is 6. So I am looking for expressions that are equivalent to 15x plus 6. So I'm going to take a look at A, and I've got 15x plus 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So now I have 15x plus 6. That is an equivalent expression, so A is one of my answers. B. I'm going to use the distributive property to simplify. 3 times the first term plus 3 times the second term. The first term is 2, the second term is 5x. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 5x is 15x. And if I reverse the order, 15x plus 6, and I can do that because addition is commutative, you can switch the order, then this is an equivalent expression. So B is an equivalent expression to the original equality, or the original terms. All right, so we'll go ahead and finish the rest of that later. Let's go down to number 21. Simplify. So we have negative 1/2 times the quantity n minus 8 minus 6. And what I want to do first here is to rewrite subtraction as adding the opposite. So I'm going to rewrite this subtraction and this subtraction as adding the opposite. So I'm just going to bring down the negative 1/2 and the parentheses and the n. To rewrite minus 8, I write that as adding a negative 8. To subtract 6, I rewrite that as adding a negative 6. Now I have 1/2 times the quantity n plus negative 8 plus negative 6. My next step is to distribute the negative 1/2 to both of those terms. So I have negative 1/2 times the first term plus negative 1/2 times the second term. And I'm going to put this negative 1/2 in parentheses as well, plus negative 6. The first term is n. The second term is negative 8. Now I'm going to simplify. Negative 1/2 times n is negative 1/2 n. A negative times a negative is a positive, and half of 8 is 4. And I'm just going to bring down the plus negative 6. Now I have like terms. I can add the positive 4 and the negative 6. I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to write the answer up here. And I have negative 1/2 n. And I can combine my like terms. Positive 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. And I can rewrite this adding a negative as simple subtraction. So my final answer is negative 1/2 plus, whoops, not plus, plus a negative equals or is the same as subtracting 2. So these are equivalent expressions, and this one is considered in simplest form. That's all we're going to do for the review. We'll finish the rest in class.